Logan, John Caprine. In this video, I'm going to finish up one more point that I had to make about the fracture of the currents of the primal gods in the last video, entitled, the Spaceman Satan, Goat Satan, Anti-Cosmic Satan, which Satan is correct. I'm going to finish up on the manifoldness of Lucifer, and then I'm going to go into another topic as to how our actual gods became so, from once a light and beautiful gods, how they became, monstrous and portrayed in such a wicked ways, like in the Goetia and the tree of the qlippoth. This has a lot to do with the Jews slandering our gods and forcing thought-form matrices upon them. So first, what I forgot to mention is that even though there was a fall of man, whatever you believe, because of either corruption in of man, or you believe in a war in heaven, a war between different races in the universe there, and that our team was just outnumbered by the Jews and the archons. It doesn't really matter what you believe about that, but know that even out of the worst situations, Satan always found out a way to make the best out of any sort of outcome. And this fragmentation of the mythology, of this dilution of magic, of the primal gods and their is not entirely 100% a bad thing. Lucifer was able to take advantage of this opportunity because there are so many different people around there, because there's such a lack of unity in the world now, especially when it comes to this, that he was able to create a pathway uniquely tailored in a way for everybody, but in its way it's not. There are still some common ground rules everybody has to follow, like after the gates of Astaroth, crossing the abyss, you can bring nothing with you but a camel, which is a symbol of faith, which means that all you have with you is your faith when you cross the abyss. And the soul crosses the abyss. It evolves on its own accord, but also the crossing of the abyss can be initiated by various rituals and gateway crossings there. What I mean by the fragmentation on there and creating a path for everybody is basically that our gods have relationship with our gods and man have been fragmented, and thus spawned many different cultures. Instead, when there was once just a kind of like a global, pagan Atlantean society where everyone worshipped the primal gods. There now we have a bunch of different pagan cults, scattered throughout Europe and Africa and Asia and North and South America, And because of these different cultures, we now have a whole myriad, many different types of people around now. That's not always a bad thing. This keeps things exciting. So how did Lucifer take advantage of this fracture? I clarified for you that he is an iron fist every plane. He has horns above heaven, hooves below hell, and he stabs the earth with his trident. Heaven, hell, and the earth. Those are his three main key points of power, and yes, He rules all a myriad of pocket dimensions and realities and parallel realities in between. Now that we know that Lucifer is such a large and dynamic being, he has a lot of goals. And this isn't just straightforward, returning to Earth, or they bring about the Antichrist and all that. Satan is not about, just ruling over people with an iron fist. There, he wants man to help himself. He helps those who can help themselves. He wants us to figure this shit out on our own. He wants us to get ourselves out of the corrupt government and out of this wicked wage slave system of bankers and archons and Jews on our own. He's just merely giving us the knowledge to do so. And how we do that is by empowering the population. Knowledge is power, and he needs various knowledges back, given return to humanity. The burned library of Alexandria, for example, the sorcerers at the primal of the primal craft, like Mr. Smith, there, the temple of the 4 pillars of fire and the Hecatian currents there, or you'd take the draconian currents of Asenath Mason there. They're all working to bring back lost knowledge, that was destroyed by the conquering Semitic civilization when they burned the Hellenic libraries, occult libraries that had spiritual knowledge of Alexandria, and they didn't just fucking end there. They had these nefarious Holocaust campaigns where they just killed millions and millions of pagan people just for the crime of not being Jewish, called the Inquisition. They burned people alive as witches, and they'd even go after the kids of witches and the descendants. Because witch power is not only something that can be gained, through chakra work, but once you reach a certain level of power, it's hereditary. If you develop telekinesis, or the ability of telepathy, to speak with spirits, with a clairaudient or clairvoyant mind, and moving objects of the mind, which is telekinesis, you will pass those traits on to your kids, and they will be able to do the same thing with ease without having to meditate. So gods essentially beget gods. Gods in becoming beget evolved children that have heightened capacities. That is why the Christian church works so hard at converting the pagans, because what they're trying to do is get all the pagans to break their oaths with Lucifer or Odin or Ea or Shiva or Pan, because this is a very strong connection within the soul. If they can get the pagans to betray their own gods, they can essentially, what they're doing, and by getting them to accept Christ, they get the pagans to kill major part of their own soul, and they get them to basically kill themselves spiritually, kill everything that matters in them. It's like 1984. If you haven't read that book, you have to read that book. There's audiobook of it online. There's also a movie, 1984. Watch the original black and white. Watch the first original black and white one. It's the closest to the book. It's uncut. It's the most potent and closest to the fucking book. But basically, Winston lives in a completely tyrannical communist society where people are not even free in their own thoughts. Yes, the government has super surveillance technology like telescreens, facial recognition software, cameras, and laser beams that basically scan people's brains, and they look for thoughts that are less than worshipful of Big Brother. And if Big Brother determines, that you have a bad thought, you're arrested for what's called a thought crime. You're a thought criminal. And what they do is they completely torture you. They break your will until you're nothing left but a shell of Big Brother. And that's exactly what the Christians try to do to the pagans during the Inquisition, because this is a not only a quest to destroy knowledge, but this is also a quest to destroy human souls on there, so that the church, who are black magicians on there, the Catholic Church, they're working with nefarious entities, not satanic at all. Satan has nothing to do with this fucking filth. They were working with Yahweh, and they were working with the Greys and other vile and filthy extraterrestrial entities. I mean, think of the lowest, disgusting, weakest parasitic scum that the universe could shit out of its collective asshole. Completely worthless and useless races. Okay? Think of the most disgusting and worthless creature on Earth. A lot of you will say a mosquito. Well, actually, no. There's parasites that are even more disgusting than that. Bot flies. Okay? All the Greys are, with the reptilians and their ilk, they belong to Yahweh, who is the traitor of the gods. You know, Yahweh is an ignorant traitor, and he betrayed in ignorance his original relationship with chaos by proclaiming that he was the Most High and that he was the only God, and he goes out and he creates an earth and a life and all that shit without Lucifer's permission. And this really pisses everybody else off there. And because of that, he has been cursed. Cursed to be a parasite for all of his cosmic existence. He has to feed upon souls in order not only to exist, but to keep his universe, to keep his cosmic prison existing as well. And basically, the Greys and the Reptilians, Archons, they're the creations, they're the slaves that do the bidding of this Yahweh thing, and essentially they're just the bot flies of extraterrestrials. They're just the lowest of scum and filth on there. And you know, and what they do with destroying souls. You know, they get a soul to convert to Jesus Christ, to Christianity, and basically that soul basically just gives consent to be devoured by these malignant extraterrestrials in the afterlife. They're I'm not gonna go too much in it in this video, but true heaven in the Bible is actually a Borg cube. You know, when you go to heaven with Jesus, you know, you won't be you up there. You won't have your memories. You won't see your family. You won't be nothing. You will be assimilated like the Borg. Okay? I'll give you the link to this on there, the Jesus of Borg on there. I've known this for years already. It's right in the Bible. The fucking Bible even describes a New Jerusalem, kingdom of heaven, as a 1500 by 1500 by 1500 mile cube, much similar to Star Trek's The Borg. Okay? And basically this is just a happy machine, which is basically just a gigantic golden cage where souls are trapped in this gigantic pleasure machine where they're constantly drugged up on spiritual heroin and just kept dumb, kept retarded, kept obedient, kept happy and dumb until their life force is completely exhausted. And for those who were unfortunate enough to be captured by the Archons after death, who were not living good, goy, submissive lives, they suffer a worse fate than death. If they aren't assimilated by the Borg, then they are cast into another but yet similar virtual reality hologram experience, one of absolute pain and torture. This is what we call the Christian hell. And it's not to punish people for their sins, no. It's actually like analogous to a grill. And, you know, if you ever tried eating like, I don't know, like a certain type of, like a crab or a nut or, no, corn on the cob, you know, like you can't just eat corn on the cob, you know, like you just can't just pick it off a fucking stalk and just gnaw on it, you know. The kernels are fucking hard, you know, you gotta soften them up. You know, you gotta boil them in water, or you gotta wrap them up in tin foil or slather them with butter and throw them on the grill, roll them around for about 10 minutes. That's exactly what the purpose of this holographic realm of suffering is, known as Christian hell. It is a place to break the wills of the disobedient, the bad goy souls that did not have the same servile nourishment potential as the good goy souls, and basically the poor bastards that end up here, they're tormented by what they believe to be demons, but they're actually archons. They have no free will. They actually have no personality at all. They're basically just like golems, you know, pretty much, that were created by Jehovah. They're pretty much golems there, and they just carry out Yahweh's sick psychopathic commands. He commands these golems telepathically, and they just like mindless drones. They just carry out his evil commands there, and they just torment and they just torture these unfortunate souls that are in the hands of the demiurge until their souls completely just broken, you know, just fractured, and they just suck up the remaining shards of life, and that soul is no longer exists. And this ain't a fast process either. They do a pretty good job at making it slow and stretching it out for what seems like an eternity. That's why the Bible says that hell lasts for all of eternity there, because the archons there, if they tell you the truth, it isn't really eternity, then you wouldn't fear them as much. And B, even though it's impossible, you can't torture a soul for eternity. It would eventually dissipate and just die out. But they can torture a soul for up to centuries, up to 900, 10 or 1100, thousands of years, 2600 years, 3600 years, and depending on how strongly willed this spirit is, and piece at a piece, memory by memory, emotion by emotion, the soul is slowly roasted, until its shell and defenses and everything is just completely just cracked open, and its just mind is assimilated. So one way or another, Yahweh eats souls. If your soul is captured by Yahweh after you die, you're fucked. He's going to eat you for dinner, and your choices are: is he going to eat you the fun way, or you're just a fucking happy, stupid fucking slave in a golden cage, or is he going to have to boil you into a soft fucking mashed potato and then slurp up your astral remains? This is the type of bullshit that we're dealing with. This is the type of human-hating, evil garbage that humanity is up against. And Lucifer is in a war to save humanity from this wicked demiurge, from this wicked Jehovah. So, because of this war, Satan's house has been outnumbered, outgunned, outsorted, and divided and scattered into various mythologies there, and he's still working to piece his own house back together, but he's starting to do it thanks to great men like Mark Allen Smith and Temple of Ascending Flame, Temple of the Black Light, and all these dark lodges who are bringing back this ancient lost and stolen pagan knowledge. They're bringing back this pagan knowledge in their and then they're bringing back the correspondences, and they're finally marking the synchronicities, like who is who in mythology. Up until the late 20th century or even 2000, almost nobody knew that Cernunnos was Belial, and very few people knew that Satan was actually Pan. Very few people knew that Belial was Baphomet, was Cernunnos, was the Native American Manitou, or was a nature, deer spirit. Nobody knew that until just recently, thanks to the draconian, gods reawakening. The portals are opening, and this gnosis is coming back. Now, that's Satan's main objective, is to bring this gnosis back. But this is a many-fronted war that we're in right now. Okay, this is a spiritual war right now. This is an information war. This is a practical war, literally conventional, like guns and bombs and terrorism, things like that. And this is also a political war. Okay, so hopefully now that this will answer your question as to why we have Nazi Satanists like the Joy of Satan, why we have the neo-Nazi Order of Nine Angles, or why we have the really radical ISIS of Satanists, Temple of the Black Light, and certain sub-circles that are based off of misanthropic Luciferian order, and things like that. These bands, these black metal bands where war metal bands actually, like Blasphemy, that these goat metalers, so they'll put on bullet belts and machine gun belts, and wear hand grenade canisters, and wear these spikes, these hairy spikes that go out 9 inches off of their wrist, and paint their faces black, and wear leather, and wear leather plates and armor, like medieval leather and spiky armor, because it represents that their music is more than just sounds. It's a spiritual music, it's battle music, it's war music against the wicked Jehovah, and they're all calling for his death. Or maybe that we got traditional Satanists, like Marmaduke, whose main focus right now is getting all the best black metal bands in the world. Everything from Archgoat to Blasphemy, Nashul, Niotegbliss, and Pseudo God, and then just all these great bands together in these death metal concerts called Cathedral of the Black Goat Fest, so we can expose the population to real death metal, to real good metal, not this fucking commercial garbage metal shows that only play Metallica and just dumb pop death metal bands that are brought to you by an energy drink. No, the devil wants Marmaduke to create a metal show in his honor, brought to you by the devil himself. Okay, so that's Cathedral of the Black Goat with their death metal shows and things like that. I think that he is personally Satan's propaganda arm, while on the other hand, like the Lilith Society and Temple of the Black Light, Misanthropic Luciferian Order, and other like really radical like Order of Nine Angles, like Satanists, like really Temple of Blood, like really extreme, like radical Satanists, you know, that engage in radical ways of promoting Satan, is Satan's warrior branch, you know, practical warrior branch. While Maxine Dietrich of the Joy of Satan um, is Satan's spiritual warrior branch. So he has two branches. He has a practical warrior branch, which is Order Nine Angles, Lilith Society, and the Drex and stuff like that. And he has a spiritual warrior branch that are called the Joy of Satan, and they do the reverse Torah rituals to reverse all this Hebrew garbage, you know. And then he has traditional Satanists or black metaller Satanists that are his propaganda arm, you know, to spread his message using very good, skilled chainsaw riffing, guitar shredding, you know, and blast beats and you know, and demonic vocal, you know, songs, you know, that are very catchy, that are fun to listen to, and garner the attention of many young potential new Satanists, you know. And then, and then you got the highest esoteric arm of Satan, like the Temple of Ascending Flame, and the Primal Craft, whose focus is opening up the Nexions and the gateways for the stellar witch gods to return to Earth. Okay, so basically, the point in the message here, even though that Lucifer has been fragmented, this was not his weakness. He actually made it out to be a strength, because now that there's these different sects of Satanism, Satan turned each and every one of these different sects of Satanism into branches of his power. Okay? So Satan has a use for every Satanist. I go by what Marmaduke Pontifex, Antichristos of the Cathedral of the Black Goat says, you know, that I believe, and quote, I believe that Satan has a plan for everybody. You know, maybe Satan needs neo-Nazis, you know, maybe Satan needs the Joy of Satan, you know, to expose the Jews, you know, and maybe Satan needs some good, you know, black metal musicians to spread satanic propaganda, and maybe Satan needs satanic ISIS guys, you know, and maybe Satan needs, you know, guys that do ancient, lost and forgotten Atlantean magic to bring forth love, to bring back lost and forgotten, you know, Lovecraftian-esque gnosis, you know, to the world, to back to Earth, you know. So because Satan is and humanity, we're being attacked by the demiurge in all directions. Okay, we're being attacked by all directions. So it only makes sense if Satan and we fight back, opposing in all directions too. Okay, so I've covered Satan's Nazi and political arm. I've mentioned Satan's musical propaganda arm. I've mentioned Satan's practical war and tactical arm, and I've exposed Satan's high esoteric, you know, Lovecraftian cultist arm. You know, he's got a whole regime full of you know, like branches of government, you know, just hidden in the world. And this is and this is also a strength, because, you know, this is so grand when you piece all of these things together. You know, when you see how, like, the Joy of Satan and like Cathedral of the Black Goat and like the Lilith Society, how they're all working together to bring about the Antichrist, return to Earth. You know, if you're not a Satanist and you're just a profane, soul, and you see all these different parts of Satanism, it's going to be so confusing to you. You're not going to take it seriously, and you're most likely going to think, oh man, look at all these different, Satanists. Satanism has no structure to it whatsoever. Satan is just a thought form, I guess. Then, if he wasn't a thought form, there'd be unity in the left-hand path. That's exactly what we want you to think, because we have these evil, nefarious, netherworldly, anti-cosmic agendas that are so grand, that are so huge and vast, that we work to when we play them out, we obscure them and we compartmentalize them because we want you to not take us seriously. We want you to think, that this is all ridiculous and we're just a bunch of like edgy, teenagers playing, a step up in Dungeons and Dragons. Good for you. Good for you. Take the heat off us, because we're fighting for freedom, and we're fighting for you. So while you go get your mind poisoned by the Jew, while you go to church every Sunday to get that McDonald's spirituality, religion that's not even a fucking religion, it's just a fucking drug. Jesus is your heroin there, it's just a fucking drug. So while you let the Jews continue to poison and destroy your mind, and you think we're all just a joke or whatever, and you're not paying any attention to us, you're staying out of our way, and you're making our job that much easier by being one less obstacle we have to remove. So Satan's kingdom has been fragmented, but out of this fragmentation he was able to erect many more kingdoms. This is one of hell's greatest strengths, is diversity in the left-hand path. Hail Satan. Now, next part of this video that's coming up, I'm going to talk about how and why did these once beautiful, pagan gods like Ea, Enki, Prometheus, Azazel, and Lucifer, and Inanna, Ashtoreth, and Ashma, who is Asmodeus currently. How all these amazing and beautiful gods of the Gentiles, how did they end up in the qlippoth? How did they become, so dark? Okay? Yes, there has been slander by the Jews, but the answer, the real answer, is so much more amazing and reveals to us the great vastness of Lucifer. In this part of the video, we will now explore the Lovecraftian, unconscious, and wrathful aspects of Satan that when worshipped and worked with the greatest respect and devotion, prove to be a formidable weapon to be reckoned with, that will destroy the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims, the governments of the world, the banks, the current soulless Semitic system, and cleanse the whole world with a breath of fire with the same amount of ease as striking a match. We're talking about raw and unbridled power. First thing you must know is this. The gods are not that much different than humanity. Now, according to Manly Palmer Hall, he wrote in the Secret Teachings of All Ages there is a mystery called macrocosm and microcosm. That God was actually the big man, and that man is the little god. They are both fractal reflections of each other, separated only by size and magnitude. But beyond that, the similarities between man and God are surprisingly striking. Now, before we go on, I must tell you this. There was a great man found in modern psychology. Name goes by Carl Gustav Jung. Carl Jung. This Carl Jung man, he spoke about this powerful well of pure power, that in pure creativity and boundless potential that existed within the soul of every man in the very deepest parts of the psyche, essentially the inner Tartarus, called the unconscious. In the unconscious, everything arises. The unconscious controls you. You think you have free will when you don't even know. And you can actually gain free will by tweaking your subconscious and unconscious mind with various commands and affirmations. That's not the point of this video. Out of the unconscious rises all of your personalities and aspects of self. Wait, did he just say you have multiple personalities? Yes, I did. Because you are not just one. Most people are so spiritually dumbed down and retarded, they do not even know anything beyond that space where inside of their skull, where they perceive reality via the five senses. Most people actually know nothing more than the five senses and the thoughts they think in their head. Most people go day to day, they drive a car to work, they do their school, if they go into college, they do their job that most people hate, just for enough shekels to barely get by for next week. And they all do it at the center of their own skull, a place that is between both ears and behind the eyeballs, a place that is in the very, very center of the skull, the seat of perception, and where all the five senses are interpreted. This is also where thoughts are heard. We call this tiny vantage point of perception the ego. The ego is you, and there's nothing bad about that. So, in all reality, though. You do have a body, but you are also a soul. You are a soul, and you have a body. It's not the other way around. You do not have a soul. Okay? The Christians, people who tell you that, were lying because they're inverting the truth. You do not have a soul. You are the soul. And that little point of perception inside of your brain, inside of the skull, called the ego, is just a symptom of the soul being bound to limitation and spatial, dimensional reality. Everything that you hear, everything that you see, everything that you touch and feel are nothing more than energetic vibrations taken in by sensory organs and interpreted by the brain. So in all reality, you have no way of guaranteeing the world in front of you is actually the world in front of you that you perceive. You know, Cthulhu, the Lovecraftian monster Cthulhu, could be face-fucking you right now. And by the grace of hell, you do not see it. Because if you did, you'd go utterly insane. So there is a blindfold, there is a veil of limiting perception that has been placed over the senses of humanity so that we do not see 100% of everything that is going on in the multiverse. There must be segregation, or else mankind would truly all go insane. Every man, woman, and child would go simultaneously insane, instantaneously, and we'd all probably act like animals. We'd all probably tear each other apart and fuck, mutilate, tear ourselves apart and cannibalize each other, like that movie Event Horizon, when the crew activated the warp drive to teleport through another dimension. And when the ship returned, there was just nothing but like mutilated corpses, crucified, tacked to walls and torn apart and just shit like that, even though it's based on fiction and the whole movie is science fiction and based heavily on Clive Barker's work, Hellbound Heart, and the Hellraiser movies. It does ring a lot like the Hellraiser films. Without this protective veil, of that separates, that segregates universes and dimensions, something like that could very well happen to the human races. So there has to be a veil of separation to keep man's mind together. Ego is one of the farthest pieces of consciousness from the true self. True self lies in the deepest recesses of the being, the unconscious mind. Now, you are not just one, like I said earlier. Most people, only the ego and the thoughts they think. They think that they think the thoughts, but they are not actually thinking thoughts. Thoughts you have in your head are actually voices of other aspects inside of yourself talking to you internally. You might have heard the term internal dialogue. It's real. When you think, you are having a legitimate internal dialogue with it could be your anima, your animus. So every man has a Christ and Antichrist. It has a male, a masculine, and a feminine meme in there, and the god and goddess. Okay, everybody has a piece of a god and a piece of a goddess within. This is what we call the anima and animus. And actually, this is where the meme of the angel sitting on your right shoulder and the little devil on your left shoulder, both whispering in in your ears, telling you to do righteousness or telling you to do bad. That's where this comes from. It's not any thing to do with a guardian demon or a guardian angel, because that are outside of you, because these things are actually inside of you. They are within the personality or the personalities, if you want to really get deep and complicated here. Then also, then there's like the higher self there, and in occultism there. Mr. Young, I never remember him mentioning a higher self, but I think the higher self is the actual self, the true self. The true self is the totality of the ego, anima, and animus, and any other alters or like fragmentation of the psyche. It's a sum total of all of it. So like, if you ever have a dream and you hear this booming voice from within that tells you to do something, you are not hearing the voice of God, you are hearing the voice of the true self, is what you're hearing, which is the totality of all of it. It's the ego, it's the anima and animus, it's everything. It's a big compilation, collaboration, that exists in the unconscious mind there. Now, the unconscious mind, the best way to describe it is a well of boundless power, and your imagination is that driving engine of the unconscious. You see, the unconscious is basically, Jung describes it as like a well. It's a bottomless well, and it goes as deep as your imagination allows. So the more crazy and out there, crazy shit you can imagine, that's your soul right there. That's as far as your soul can go. And the scary thing is, imagination is also the bridge to other realms. So not only is your imagination the engine of your soul is made up of imagination. Your imagination or your soul is actually a bridge, can also be a bridge to other realities and other places from which other entities, whether they be related to Earth, planetary, or completely alien in nature and scary, can come on through and cross over through your imagination and into your conscious mind, where they can influence your thoughts and you see pictures of them. I've had an experience with I had a visitation by a transplutonian entity on the second night of my Temple of Ascending Flame ritual. This was, of course, after it. I did the Temple of Ascending Flame ritual Monday night, past 12 o'clock and into Tuesday morning. So Tuesday, 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm laying in my bed there. And I'm drifting in and out of consciousness because I've performed an occult ritual with the Nightside. My imagination was still expanded, okay? Now this is why in qliphotic magic, the safer like magicians, like the ones like Mark Allen Smith who use common sense, they say always to close the gates to the Nightside. Well, what he's really saying is you close off the gates, the internal gates of your soul or your imagination, so that you don't have any unwanted visitors show up by crossing through your imagination. You see, I never grounded after I did that ritual on the second night. So my imagination was still open up to hell. And I was laying down there, and I saw something that was truly unlike anything, that man could describe. You know what? I could only probably draw it for you, and even then, it would not have done it justice. Um, what when I was working, when I started this um, dark work with the Temple of the Ascending Flame, I was treated to very rewarding and comforting uh, visions of, a classical hell. Um, Even though it was a Christian parody type of hell, even though it looked a lot like the new Doom hell with like floating devil skulls, goat skulls, dragon skeletons around there, and lakes of corpses and bones and gore, and horny demons running around fucking each other. You know, I've been desensitized to those types of environments, and I find myself comfortable in places like that in my mind. Well, basically, I was treated to a nice surprise when I was falling asleep there. Um, a very unusual but nice surprise. I believe I was visited by a truly qliphotic entity. Qliphotic meaning alien, not having really any connection to the earth at all. Hell, this thing could have been from the abyss itself. And and all I could really say to you is it looked like a mass of just black tentacles. They didn't have suction cups on there. It was just black, gooey tentacles, and it was amorphous. It looked like chaos, is what it looked like. It was really chaotic, and it kind of looked like Nyarlathotep of H.P. Lovecraft, and and this thing had eyes on it. These fucking eyes, and they were staring right at me, and I couldn't tell where its mouth was, but it was looking at me. Okay, not out of malignancy, but its presence was so alien, so bizarre. Looking at it looked menacing at first, and I only caught a glimpse of it at a second. And basically, its face had no symmetry to it at all. It was completely amorphous, and this alien, flowing massive tentacles. I saw it looked like a still of it. That's what the scary thing is. If it was moving, like, I probably wouldn't care. But this thing was fucking still. It was like a photograph. All right. But this photograph was alive, and it gave me this gaze of commanding authority. It was like, "Hey there, hi," like that, and that woke my ass the fuck up. I'm like, "Whoa, shit." That's because I left the gates to the Nightside open, or maybe I was meant to see this entity. I go to it, hey, please don't show yourself to me again. You're really stretching the limits of my mind, and by the grace of hell, this thing actually, I'm sorry, I don't know what to call it. It's not a him, it's not a her, it's an it. Um, Out of respect, I don't want to offend this guy. This it actually did listen to me, and he did not show me anything else like him again. And I did not have I did not have the terror of seeing him a second time. But what he did give me, he gave me like a full like feature movie line script, or a book that's truly frightening. Like this puts Dan Brown's like work to shame, and Dennis Waitley work to shame. This is like Dennis Waitley's To the Devil a Daughter meets Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons. a truly horrifying, lifting of the veil and what's going on in like government and like secret societies and like church and religion and like all this just bad stuff, truly evil, dark filth there, that I was shown. And the best way I could describe this thing is it's the undercurrent, and that's exactly what I've chosen to name this story that I'm going to write, that I've channeled from this being there, from this Nyarlathotep looking creature. He gave me a story, and I'm calling it the undercurrent, because that's the only way you can describe it, is the undercurrent, the undercurrent runs the world there. It's a truly alien current. So basically, that is the power of the subconscious mind right there. The subconscious mind is like an antenna. It allows you to receive and have communication with these bizarre, lofty, and truly alien entities. Because these entities are so alien, they do not speak English, obviously. They do not speak a human language. And from my experience, they actually are a lot better at speaking in pictures and sounds and movie clips. So when I was communicating with this entity, I asked him to slow down here, and of course he listened to my request. So but he didn't stop communicating with me. I believe he didn't. I believe he continued on, and basically he was or it. I'm sorry, I don't know if this thing has a gender or not. It was showing me images. It was showing me movie clips. It was showing me images, and basically it was showing me these things in an order over and over again, and each time he would add something. It would add a new clip to it. It would add a new image to it. So basically, like, over the course of the next 6 hours, I was laying in bed. It was basically piecing together a story for me, and that I assume it wants me to write. And the name of this upcoming novel of mine is going to be called The Undercurrent. A truly alien look into into the concept of hell on earth, and what Luciferians are trying to build. But if we don't, keep the earth in balance, if we don't, we deal with love also, if we live only in fear, what can happen if we allow the Atlantean darkness to corrupt our souls. It's very important in the left-hand path that you have balance, or else the darkness will consume you before your soul is ready to assimilate its power. Every man and every woman and every child has this wellspring called the unconscious mind, which is basically an antenna. The imagination can create on its own, but the imagination also steals from around it, because the unconscious mind records everything. You may watch a TV commercial and there's a bunch of subliminal messages, and like symbols and affirmations and commands that flash so fast, across the screen, in these accelerated frames, that your mind doesn't pick it up because it's not supposed to. When you're in waking reality, you are operating on two different systems there, all right? You're operating on day-side egoic consciousness, which is basically the front row seat view of everything. It's like, okay, the ego, basically, if we were to speak about this in computer terms, your ego is your desktop.